and I'm trying to create something true, good, and beautiful. And then somebody says, but it's not a vitamin. Can you turn it into a vitamin? Because Christians really should only consume vitamins. And we want to give our kids vitamins. And we feel good spending the household budget on vitamins. We do not feel good spending the household budget on something beautiful for the children, something really fun, for the kids or inspiring for the kids. We don't feel as good about that. The beating heart of the faith market is motivated by the vitamin nature of it. Yeah. And is not motivated by joyful, exuberant celebration of a glorious and gracious creator God. Doesn't motivate them anywhere near as much as something cross-shaped.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
184, I think.
4.
Yep, 184. Okay.
I'm starting to feel like 252 is as many as we should ever do.
That's a long way away, but not so far that we couldn't get there.
Maybe, I don't know, that's an arbitrary number, but it feels like the end of the line. We have to stop sometime.
I agree. And I think
we can't just do this forever.
Just
Brian.
Pivot into Lamp Club and then we can get our
sorted. Lamp Club is never quite ignited thoroughly.
That's why we pivot there. And then
Okay. 184. What are we talking about?
Well, here's the question that John has for you and me as well. How are internet influencers, I'm thinking of, you've mentioned regularly the fake pitch meetings, Critical Drinker or Nerdrotic, those guys.
Screen Rant.
Yeah, Screen Rant. How are they having an effect on the film industry and its writers, or are they? Do you have any backroom focus on that? You don't think they matter at all?
No.
It's just another form of content. They're just parasites around the movie industry?
If they are talking about your movie is winning.
Okay, so this is part of the all publicity is good publicity.
With very few exceptions. See Snow White.
Okay.
But
so Snow White getting nuked by the internet hurt it, but pretty much everything else getting made fun of doesn't matter.
People laughing, like, oh, that's fair or that's not fair. It means they have to have seen it. Mm-hmm. They have to have watched it. It becomes an inside joke for people who are members of the viewership of a film. Mm-hmm. That stuff is not, it really is not negative at all.
Gotcha. So they just view, or I should say writers and producers would view those people as part of the marketing arm. They just want to reach those in the same way they reach anyone else.
So I've said this before, but like one of the big successful things to do is to get your art to a place where people feel the need to have an opinion. They need to have formed an opinion about something. And that can be pastors, that could be teachers, that could be kids. If you get all the way down to the consumers, where individual consumers feel the need to have an opinion one way or the other about a thing, then you're really, really succeeding. You're kind of the zeitgeist at that point. So when people are bantering, making fun of, teasing, then they're all in the periphery of the conversation around this thing you're trying to market. That's not bad. If you really hit an inflection point into you are a joke, everyone owns you, and they own you in a way that does not require them to watch.
Yeah.
So when they're owning you, and it doesn't require viewership to have skin in the game into the conversation in which they make fun of you. So like hate watching, the Minecraft movie.
Yeah.
Like these people who are doing variations, that wasn't a hate watch. That was a weird one. But that's kind of like GameStop. That was like the GameStop shares when everybody was like, hey, it'd be really funny if we made this thing amazing. Let's all make it an event movie.
Yeah.
It's so terrible. It's so bad. Who cares?
Yeah. That's filtered down to my elementary students who have no idea what it is, but they're still finding themselves saying chicken jockey. And I'm saying, what? Okay. Pop culture is
weird.
A powerful thing.
Yeah, it is. So you have these things where people can opt in. And if in order to really engage, you need to have seen, then you're winning. Hate watching, studios are still winning. Mm-hmm. And if you get to a place where people are hate watching the trailer, and then you have all the Twitter songs and the mashups and everybody's just brutalizing this movie, you could really end up in a dead spot. You'll still harvest more revenue than you would have otherwise if nobody even noticed. Mm-hmm. So if your movie just comes out and nobody cares, nobody notices, that's death. Mm-hmm. So even everybody hating on Snow White is better for Disney than
Nobody
not noticing.
Sure.
So the not noticing is the worst. But hatred of your marketing materials and of your actress and everything else.
Especially when no one can take action. I think that's a tough part.
Yeah.
If it destroys it upon launch, that can be a time.
Yeah. So if you can really murder something and people do that, then it obviously is brutal. But
you're saying there's nothing different about the internet than there was than, say, when Roger Ebert was doing his thing.
It's a decentralized hydra.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely different. But you want tons of people posting about it. And you want tons of people being Roger Ebert, watching it and having opinions and needing to tell their followers about it.
Yeah.
And that absolutely affects the outcomes and only in the favor of the studios.
That's great. Well,
it's not necessarily great, Brian, but
I mean, it's nice to hear that things are still marketing is still marketing.
Marketing is marketing is marketing. Yeah.
One of my favorite J.K. Rowling quotes was when she said, "I make the same royalties whether you read my book or burn it." And said cheers. And I think that's probably the takeaway.
Yeah.
She doesn't care with all these people hating it and saying, "Hey, I burned a copy of your book."
Well, back in the day, early days of this kind of stuff, when The Passion was coming out, it was movie marketers. You know, I've heard, again, I don't have firsthand information of this. I have been told, I've had it relayed to me by people who were allegedly the agents of this activity. I have not been able, I can't falsify or verify this, but when The Passion was coming out, it was movie marketers who were accusing it of anti-Semitism. It was movie marketers who were coming in and accusing it of, basically egregious theological error. The movie marketers were, I've been told, again, can't verify, but I have people say, we were commissioning bots to just hunt message boards and troll message boards and attack The Passion. And so the movie marketers were trying to start controversies wherever they could about the film.
Because nothing's harder than to market without opposition or clear delineation.
So I think I've told this story here about my dad open air preaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Right. But you should do it again.
Yeah. So some young pastors were wanting to do some open air evangelism. They're having trouble because of apathetic age, et cetera. Go to a campus, stand on a bench. Everybody's walking by. You start trying to preach. Everybody's just walking by. They don't care. So my dad went with a guy. He's like, I'll show you. And he got up on the bench. He started preaching, and my dad started yelling at him. Crowd. Just boom. Immediate crowd. Phones out.
We're humans.
Yeah.
we love a squabble.
Yeah. And so immediately and my dad's yelling objections to the gospel and objections to Christianity that are representative of normal FAQs, like normal objections for unbelievers. So he's trying to honestly represent them so they hear themselves and they're going to see the exchange, but he's also created drama. He's created tension by yelling.
So he's not being a fake.
No, he's trying to throw the questions that he knows these kids are thinking but not saying out loud. Mm-hmm. So he's throwing those things out, and the crowd gathers, and then the gospel's preached. If you're trying to sell a thing, you often absolutely have to get haters involved. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you have no resistance at all, if you are going to war, we're marching, we're launching this thing. This is this thing we're doing, and we are going to storm the wet tissue paper. That's what we're going to do. We have zero resistance. There is no tension. There is no narrative. There is no drama of any kind related to this.
This is the most boring thing you've ever heard.
Good luck, right?
Yeah.
But if this is needed, if people are making mistakes, so it's not fake. It's like it's even part of the design of the product.
Yeah.
So people need this. Why? Well, because there's tension. There's some friction. Yeah. There's something that needs resolution.
I was going to say the opposition's the easy way, and then the other one is the need that every single person has felt. I don't know, diapers, for example. Like you don't need opposition for that. It's just everybody needs it, and the first time they encounter it, they're like,
everybody needs toilet paper.
Yeah.
There's some things that are easy to sell.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is interesting. And so when there's tension built in and you're the solution to a problem. Recently, people were tweeting about, I forgot his name, the guy who came up with 5-hour energy shots. I did some Googling and reading some articles about him because my wife read me a Twitter thread. I don't know. She likes to follow entrepreneurial business things on Twitter. And so she read me this Twitter thread about him, and I was bouncing around looking at his backstory. And he's a genius. It's like, yeah, this guy's a marketing genius. But the first step in marketing is the creation of your product and the shaping of your product to the market. And so when he entered the marketplace, there was no such thing as an energy shot. Like, it didn't exist.
There were energy drinks.
Monster, Red Bull.
Right. Very high sugar. Yeah.
Like, there was big drinks. People were buying a 16-ounce energy drink. Here's a Red Bull. They're expensive. And he came up with the idea of selling an effect, where he's like, people want an effect. They want an outcome. They don't want a beverage. So I'm going to try to sell them the outcome, not the beverage. And so he intentionally made his 5-hour energy shots taste bad because he wanted people to knock them back. He didn't want them to sip it and be disappointed in the tininess of the drink. He's selling an effect. So the 2-ounce bottle, the creation of this little 2-ounce bottle, selling the effect, 5-hour energy, placing them in gas stations, on the counter, just this is where it is. You're not thirsty. You just really need energy right now. And taking all the expensive parts out of a Monster, or a Red Bull and distilling it down to here's the active ingredient for this whole thing. And I'm going to make it taste bad, and I'm going to mark it up. So it's not cheap, but I'm selling you this effect. And the fact is, he's trying to solve a problem. He narrowed in on the problem and tried to sell a solution to the problem. And then there was immediate backlash. People were like, this is dangerous. And this is, there's all these frictions. And so you got to wander this narrative. It's pretty awesome. But whenever you're trying to sell anything, movie, book, whatever it is, you have got to have a narrative. You have to have tension. But that narrative isn't just you spinning a product trying to make it sell. The narrative is you creating the product, identifying the tension of the problem, and stepping into that narrative with a product. So my dad's book, Keep Your Kids.
Yeah.
Like, what's there's a problem, there's a struggle, there's this worldly tension. And so he's selling a book because he actually sees a problem and he wants to try to address that problem with a solution. So here is, a contribution to that solution. And it's easy to market. It's easy to talk about. It's easy to push because here is this dilemma. Here's this tension. Here's this narrative. And here's a contribution to the resolution of that tension. But if you're just trying to sell a movie, just a movie, like, why? Why am I going to see this? How do I need to see it? Why do I need to see this?
You need to see it because it's the worst in this particular area. It's the
best.
Yeah.
People love it. People hate it. Whatever you have to create all this stuff. And so around entertainment, especially, there's a lot of artificiality in the marketing that doesn't exist in nonfiction when you're trying to, you identify something in culture or some subject and you're trying to address it. In fiction marketing, it's whole cloth narrative and the creation of narrative that is pretty interesting.
This connects to what I wanted to discuss for the rest of the episode, which is specifically about Christians in fiction.
Yeah.
And
why they're the worst.
Well, yeah. I mean, it made me wonder if people are trying to tap into that. With Ashtown, you've written a book where it's, unashamed Christian, but also not faith market. And that distinction right there is on one side. But for a long time, I think since, as long as we can recall, but especially with Scarlet Letter and Arthur Dimmesdale, we have the Christian who's the hypocrite, or the bully, or perhaps the idiot. And we're used to Barbara Kingsolver and the Poisonwood Bible with the fake missionary just there about, power. And the question that I have, I guess, is, do people use Christians in that way to try to, for serious literature? Is that what they're doing? Are they trying to get that opposition in here? And there's a sense in which the truth, the ultimate reality, has to be dropped into your book in some way, or your book isn't touching. I mean, I guess maybe the way to start with this is, how did you think about putting overt Christian characters into your book?
Yeah, for me, it's easy because I'm trying to write something that's good, true, and beautiful. So I'm, obviously that comes from Christianity and the gospel, and So as I infuse particular characters with particular moments of wisdom, and they get to say these things that are true or inspirational in their scene, in their moment, because it is the faithful thing to say for this character in that moment. I'm doing it because that's what makes it rich. So I'm trying to enrich the story.
Yeah.
With this stuff from God's truth, God's beauty, God's goodness. And so it's not about anything other than, can I make this meal really good? That's...
So it's not like you were sitting there mixing and being like, hey, I need a Christian element. You were pursuing your story.
Yeah, I'm pursuing truth, goodness, and beauty, and this is inevitably what comes in.
Yeah. Now, did you think
there are people? Let's put it this way, and I'm gonna overcompliment myself.
Go.
And I'm just gonna say, I know this is not what I did, but for purposes of this illustration, let's say that I'm the first person to put peanut butter inside chocolate. Let's just say that I found a combination of ingredients that exist in God's world, and I'm combining them into an experience that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I'm trying to take cool stuff from around God's creation and then structure it into an artificial experience that will actually inspire and edify and amuse and, do all these things. So, but let's say that I am the guy. I'm the guy.
The inventor.
Who put peanut butter inside chocolate for the first time. Mm-hmm. And then a bunch of Christians are mad at me because they're saying, why didn't you shape it like a cross?
Right.
I'm like, circles hold more.
Circles hold more.
So
that's math.
Yeah. But if I'm saying this is God's chocolate, this is God's peanut butter, and I happen to have found a really cool combination. And I think I have. I'm doing this global fantasy, mythology, history into America, and I'm going with this earthy truck stop, motel, upper Midwest, humid, cicadas buzzing America, neon signs by the roadside motel that is also going to launch into global fantasy, like global historic fantasy. I love that combination. I love that combination of flavors. I do it because I like it. Like this is my favorite combination of flavors. So to me, it's like barbecue. It's like great seasoning on a reverse seared tri-tip to combine these things. I didn't invent any of them. I'm combining them. So peanut butter, chocolate, this kind of seasoning, this kind of Snake River Wagyu beef, reverse seared, on my little hilltop in Idaho. But I didn't invent any of it. I'm just borrowing, arranging, constructing, and trying to create a meal. It's all stolen from God. Like all of it is from God.
Yeah.
All of this is from his hand. If it's true, it's from him. If it's good, it's from him. If it's beautiful, it's from him. And I'm combining all those things, and I'm trying to create something true, good, and beautiful. And then somebody says, but it's not a vitamin. Can you turn it into a vitamin? Because Christians really should only consume vitamins. And we want to give our kids vitamins. And we feel good spending the household budget on vitamins. We do not feel good spending the household budget on something beautiful for the children, something really fun, for the kids or inspiring for the kids. We don't feel as good about that. We don't feel as good about buying a really good cut of meat. We feel really good as Christians. We feel really good being super frugal and giving our kids a really bad cut of meat that we got super cheap. Like we feel great. We feel pious doing that. But as long as you tick all and that's changing a little bit, but it's still out there, and we have Lunatic Farmer, and there's a lot of things to be said about that. If you haven't watched Lunatic Farmer, watch Lunatic Farmer.
MyCanonPlus.com.
Yeah. So basically, we are very good as Christians at going and buying vitamins for the kids. We are not good at pursuing something that's going to really enrich them and give them a beautiful moment. So this is why I love Sabbath dinner routines and Saturday night dinners and the opportunity to really kind of mark and celebrate. My daughter just got back. I was at districts track. She was graduating. My wife was watching her graduate in Michigan. I was in Kamei, Idaho, down by the beautiful Clearwater River, making children run around an oval quickly, and in order to qualify for state and take the team to state. When she got back, I had some really good meat that we had on the grill. I poured her some of the expensive stuff. You know, it's like we marked it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunities to like mark and remember and beautify moments.
So why don't we do that? Are we ascetics? Or
Yeah.
Has that been
Gnostics.
super powerful?
Yeah.
Is the ascetic Gnostic, this stuff doesn't matter?
Lots of parts of the evangelical world especially just feel guilty doing something beautiful or good. I don't at all. I don't have that. I don't have that conscience. Luckily, I was raised by parents who did not instill that in me whatsoever. My mom loved to beautify a Saturday night meal. We loved to be there. You know, she was pouring the kids really great wine, cooking really good food. And every Saturday night before going into worship, we'd really do something that marked our gratitude for the week and our gratitude for worship in the morning. You know, it's like, and it really, that rhythm of gratitude is so important. And I actually think that a big part of why we're so bad at it as a people is that we are ungrateful.
We've lost.
We are
thankful.
an ungrateful people.
Gotcha.
And so we are all sitting there like Judas being upset about how much money was spent
On the perfume. Instead of smelling it.
That could have gone to the poor. Don't you understand?
Yeah.
So that could have gone to the poor.
We're very one-dimensional then with our virtues. Like our virtues need to be up, down, spiritual. There's nothing sideways. We can't look at this huge world around us and find something good.
Yeah, we struggle with gratitude, and we want lip service to piety. And so if I was the first Christian guy to put peanut butter in chocolate, and so I've done this thing with American fantasy, and I've invented this American fantasy genre, and I'm the very first one to do it, and I'm offering it to Christian families, and I'm saying I've done this imitating God, and they look at it and say, but why fantasy? Why would you do this with a secular publishing house? Why would you do this as fantasy? Why would you do this here? Why isn't it cross-shaped? Why is the faith one iteration away from obvious? I'm pretty obvious, but why aren't you more overt? Why aren't you getting into justification by faith alone, specifically as regards to this Catholic character? Why are you representing him as a true and faithful believer? And it's like, well, because he's a true and faithful believer. I made him up. So I have
this guy.
So I have complete authority over whether or not he's a true and faithful believer, and he is. So here's your crunchy peanut butter inside the chocolate. And there's this resistance of like, but that's not vitamin E. That's not vitamin E enough. That's just, you know, and it's a side note. It's another form of ingratitude. You're welcome. You're welcome. I did this.
Eat it,
enjoy it, sit back and enjoy it. And of course, there's all sorts of people who have given in and are worldly and are just pursuing their own tastes and so on. But overwhelmingly in America, evangelicals, and I think the beating heart of the faith market, let's put it that way. So evangelicals are gooey and very worldly around the edges, but the beating heart of the faith market is motivated by the vitamin nature of it. Yeah. And is not motivated by joyful, exuberant celebration of a glorious and gracious creator God. Doesn't motivate them anywhere near as much as something cross-shaped. So I might eat your peanut butter and chocolate if you tell me that it will, you know, reduce the temptations of the flesh.
Sure. So you're saying the enjoyment aspect is just sitting and enjoying something is actually that gratitude that you're talking about.
Yeah, and thanking God for it, thanking people for it, whoever gave it to you.
But us evangelicals like to have a reason for it.
Yeah. We want to know, what's the lesson, though?
Yeah.
What's the lesson?
Okay.
By the way, I'm a total magpie, so I like shiny objects. I got this from my grandfather on my mom's side, but he would always, wherever he was trying to collect cool gems and things. And so in early marriage, I had been doing this. I'd been hunting star sapphires and rubies. And on my 5th anniversary, I had this bracelet, made for my wife, in which they set these different stars that I had collected. And this Christian girl that she knew said, but what does it mean? And she's like, well, means my husband loves me. Like, he collected these stones, and she's like, yeah, but do they represent anything? It's like, well, it represents my my husband's
So she just wanted like, hey, this stone means this,
Yeah.
or the 5 stones.
What is it?
represent-
Why 5? What? Well, it's our 5th anniversary. I don't even remember how many I had on the bracelet. I didn't care about there being 5. It wasn't like there might just be 5. I didn't care about it being this represents this and this represents that. I put together the one. I left some out because they weren't pretty enough. I hunted and found the ones I thought were the prettiest and had this little bracelet made for her, which she loved. And it was an anniversary gift. It represented we'd been together 5 years, and I gave her this thing. But it was really funny. She thought it was hilarious. She was like, it means he likes me and he's being nice and he thinks they're pretty and he gave me something pretty.
Yeah,
and
he didn't give it to you.
Yeah. But the question but what's the lesson? What is the assigned meaning? Where's the vitamin?
Yeah.
It's like, these are beautiful rocks formed under pressure in the ground by God. And they've been polished up, and I found them and
I found some for you.
And these are in her bracelet now because I really like her. That narrative, like the narrative of the thing is a problem. We need the distilled lesson, the morality. And so that's actually in the faith market, that has been a huge problem. And I've heard from recently, I've heard from people in Hollywood who said the question of whether we make a show or a movie right now is, does it preach? But does it preach?
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? Like every episode has to be pushing a lesson. And it was worse than that. They said, no, every show or movie has to be able to function as a sermon, meaning like we have to be able to give clips to pastors and they will show the clip in worship, and then they will have their sermons.
That makes me sick.
So we need show clips from shows and features to be sermon illustrations. They must have sermon illustrations so that our marketing teams can pre-package these clips and send them out around the whole evangelical world. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of like, can you just make something really wonderful? Can you just do something really wonderful and experience it and be grateful for it and feed on it and then move on? Or does it have to be boiled down into tiny little lessons? And the moral of the story is, this sapphire means this.
Pre-chewed steak.
Yeah. Pre-chewed stove. Pre-digested. Yeah.
Okay, so I was originally thinking, all right, Margaret Atwood, Handmaid's Tale, Barbara Kingsolver, those are all just fake. But
I got totally distracted too from your original question.
But as you're describing it, I was saying, they're just making up Christians, but it sounds like they're actually copying a real tendency in a lot of us, which is to be completely hypocritical. So ignore how life is. And
let's put it this way. Let's talk about how we are. How we are. People. How are people? If you think about selling a book to NPR, back when NPR was a thing, NPR listeners.
Shade thrown, noted, appreciated.
So if you're going to try to sell it to the stereotypical NPR audience, when you take shots at evangelical pastors in that book, like when you do that, you're going to like play to the crowd and they're going to be ha 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 ha. Like you're going to get your bona fides, you're calibrated right and you're making fun of stuff. When my dad wrote Even Jellyfish, great book. If you haven't listened to it or read it, it's
an award-winning novel.
Yeah, award-winning novel. When he wrote Even Jellyfish as an evangelical pastor, and it is the story of Jonah, where there's a pastor who is a Jonah and his Nineveh is a megachurch pastor. Like his personal Nineveh, he does not want to see saved. He wants to see him burned and destroyed. But God's calling him to go minister to this megachurch pastor named Chad Lester, and it's very funny. But so he writes Even Jellyfish. I told him, I was like, we need to send this to FSG. They'd publish Tom Wolfe. They read it and said, this is too fantastical. Love it. This is hilarious, but this is too fantastical. This is not real. They're like, this is too devastating, and it's representative of this kind of evangelical Christian. That's doesn't seem fair. But my dad, who had direct access to all this, was like, no, this is all real. This is really what it's like over here. And then right afterwards, there was a big scandal, a big evangelical scandal that was even more ridiculous than what was happening in the book.
Yep.
But there was, for them, they were like, this is too far. But if you really love a thing and if you're loyal to a thing, you can criticize it, and you can criticize it from a place of affection and love and loyalty. But if you're playing to a liberal crowd and you hate that thing and they hate that thing, you want to earn your bona fides by taking shots. And so you make them feel morally superior with these little shots.
Especially if all of them deconstructed it, strokes their pride.
Now, do we do the same thing? 100% we do back on our side.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons why they do what they do, where they pick farcical and ridiculous Christians to use as tropes and to beat up on them, is because if you're looking at your enemies and you are deciding who to have represent your enemies, I'm looking over here at Christians and I'm thinking, which of them do I want to fight?
Yeah, the pastor who had an affair and won't stop lecturing on adultery
yes,
is pretty easy.
Which of these targets do I want to say, this is the representative of all of you, and I'm going to pull him out and I'm going to beat him up in this story, as basically as your champion. Then you go around the flip side. How do conservatives do this? Well, they do it the exact same way.
Sure.
They find the most ludicrous, purple-haired psycho librarian and pull her out and say, she is the spokeswoman for all y'all. Except for she's not a woman, so she's a spokes thing. She is the spokes thing for all of you. There's actually quite a few kind of like fairly normie, like centrist people back there being like, what's going on? She doesn't represent them. We don't care. Like, this is how the game is played. We're going to pull out the most ridiculous representative of our enemy, and they're going to pull out the most ridiculous representative of their enemy, who happens to be us. And we're going to be sitting here saying, they don't represent us. And the same thing's going to happen on the other side. And this is just how people fight.
This is how marketing works, I think, to go back to our beginning for this
and it's how people fight.
Yeah.
So it's rare that if Israel was picking who they were going to fight among the Philistines, they wouldn't pick Goliath. They would have picked somebody else.
Yeah.
Goliath might have picked David.
Okay. All right. So jumping back to your own work then, when you drop in...
When I put peanut butter inside chocolate.
When you put crunchy, brother Niffy, a fire-breathing fundamentalist...
Inside of dark chocolate.
Who might actually murder somebody if he thought they weren't quite... Not murder, that's the wrong word.
I think we could go there.
Who would execute somebody for being outside the pale of orthodoxy, slightly.
Yeah, he's a psycho.
Yeah. What are you doing there? Because there's no sense of like Niffy being, there's a sense that he's a bit crazy, but there's not a sense of he's not one of us. And like he's got that true faith you were talking about. Like, talk a bit about insane fundamentalists. You've been accused of being one, but the Niffy, the Niffy.
I love Niffy. I think that he's a lot of fun, and I like having the mad Irish. So he represents this kind of let's say he represents a kind of fiery faith that is usually young and male, often, but is real, but is not wise. And he occasionally has wisdom, especially when it comes to his own choices, his own individual choices. He's very sacrificial.
Going down swinging.
But he is not a general.
Gotcha.
And I know many, many personalities who have a fiery and real faith, but should never be allowed in the war room of strategy. And so Niffy is in this place. Brother Boniface Brosnan is in this place where he is a very flamboyant, hilarious. He's wearing the Irish flag boxers under his monastic robes. He's got a mohawk. I've signaled his immaturity, right?
Yeah. Surely not the custom boxers, though.
But his wisdom is lacking when it comes to the broad movements, right? The broad movements of nations and big strategic conversations.
I think regularly he's trying to ruin things. If he would mess it up.
Yep.
And people have to stop him from messing it up.
It's like, Niffy, stop. It's like, that's not what we're doing. But he wants to burn it down. Everything's an Alamo. Mm-hmm. So he's ready to go down in flames. I know way too many people like this.
Yeah.
And some of them are nowhere near as likable as Niffy is. So
you're saying people who
have
seized onto something that's true.
Let's think about abolitionists in the pro-life movement.
Oh boy, you just made it really real.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it's like you guys are, you honestly have no right to be in any of these war rooms because all you want to do is like, but burn it down. Like anything short of perfection right now.
If we do not sink the ship at this minute.
Yeah, right this second, here, now. And it's like we all agree. Like we are all in agreement. We're even all in agreement that we want to win.
We're even all on the same ship.
Yep. But there's this desire, this deep, fiery desire among people like this to actually lose. And
Okay, wow. Break that down a little. What's going on there? Is it because that's how they've seen the holiness exposed, or what do you think? Or do you think it's more?
if we're going to be really positive, they just want to pour more water on the altar. If we're going to be really negative, it's because they like the grandiosity of this losing cause and the Alamo. You know, as opposed to the idea of actually winning. You know, so anyway.
This clip better not.
You know, it can get out. It's great. But the point is, Niffy is that kind of guy. I have a ton of affection for him. I have a lot of affection for that fiery, young, authentic faith, like a very authentic faith
Right.
that doesn't understand the nature of, for example, beating Hitler, like in Europe, and having to not be fighting Stalin at the same time. Like we can't, like Hitler betrayed Stalin, so Stalin's attacking on this front, and we are co-belligerents with the Soviets against the Nazis, and we're going to try to deal with the Soviets later. Like that, we'll deal with that later. Just even that, we will deal with that later. We cannot be divided and conquered right now. We have to have read our Sun Tzu and have paid attention.
Sure.
Like to be in that war room.
So allowing strategy and morality to both be in play at the same time.
Yeah. But the other thing is I have, the Irish are really fun. The Irish are hilarious. The Irish also not strategic, just historically, not individual Irish men, but as a people, historically, not a lot of big strategic triumphs. What the IRA did for decades, just blowing stuff up.
Terrible. Yeah.
It's like just blowing it up and blowing it up and blowing it up. And I have an Irish friend who told me that you can always spot an ex-IRA guy in Ireland because they're the ones with no sense of humor. They're just humorless, and the Irish have such a sense of humor. And there's this humorlessness that runs through them. But you think about this, and I have Niffy, and he's a fiery Irish monk. And he's just always in burn it down now mode. And he's also the one who's always ready to, like a Reformed Baptist, he's always ready to turn in and have a good infight.
Sure.
Like let's church split real quick. Let's just turn. Let's just fight to the death inside of our own group, let alone even out there against our enemies. He's got this hair trigger, and he's fiery, and everybody has a ton of affection for him. And he's on the team, but he is this ingredient that is going to obey Wilson's rule of every meeting over 20 minutes, he's going to propose ruining everything. So he's super scrupulous. It's, you know, he's got all these things. I really like him as a character because I think he is real. I think this is a real guy. He's kind of my McPhee, where Lewis has McPhee and St. Anne's and That Hideous Strength.
An unbeliever in the middle of
somebody he really loves, that he relates to, who's been part of his circles that he likes, who's not a believer. Well, Niffy is that for me. It just is not an unbeliever. It's a Catholic. I have a lot of friends who are fiery tradcads. You know, like they're kind of in that world. And then I have about a bunch of friends who are a bunch of Reformed Baptists who are fiery, just like Niffy as well.
And the two couldn't be left in a room, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
they would.
But they also are both Niffy. Right. So he's this representative of a lot of fiery guys, and I think he's a favorite character from fans. I've heard a lot of people really like him. I like him a ton. He's got some great scenes, and he's extremely sacrificial, and he's not selfish at all. But he's not wise. He should not be the general.
Okay, now let's jump on to the Englishman, who's extremely strategic and is the general above them all. And kind of, you know, if we're talking Rupert, does that character exist? I think we're taught to think of the Englishman of what type is Rupert Greaves?
So Rupert is a guy who should have fought sooner.
Okay.
So
So, and that, because I was going to say, most Englishmen, that's our perspective on them, is that they wouldn't throw down, and they haven't.
Yep. Rupert's that guy who's reached a place where he now is and has thrown down, but he probably should a long time ago.
Gotcha. And that's another true character of Christians. And here he's completely noble, completely
and it's
selfless.
also not uniquely British. That's something all over the place. But the how about fight now, and that part is his journey. He's learned, he's changed, and everything else. But there is something where he was raised by this order. It's like his family, and he's come up through it, and his job is being the defender of it. And so all those alignments make it really difficult to have the fights that he's had to fight. But he's always been,
because he's been a preserver for so long.
Yeah,
and a member of it.
Yeah,
of the Ashtown.
So he's just been the preserver of this place, the last defender.
Well, we've talked about that before. It's tough to let go of institutions.
Yeah,
especially when you love them, and
so he's been faithful in it, but it has not been. He is being faithful long after the institution that he's being faithful to is no longer faithful, and that's the case all the time.
Do you think we Christians need to relax?
I can think of like 5 or 6 guys who are like this right now.
Oh, in institutions that have gone down and they're still there.
Yep.
Right.
Great dudes.
Yeah.
It's like it's not hard. Who are in churches or colleges or denominations that they should have walked from a long time ago. Publishing houses.
Sure.
There's plenty where it's like they're there and they're the last defender of it, but they can't defend it against its own rot internally. And it just kind of betrays them from behind, which is rough. And that's the situation that Rupert's in.
So do you think we Christians need to relax a little bit? I think we tend to freak out. We see a Christian who's bad in a particular movie, and then we're like, oh, no, they're against us. But instead, maybe the better perspective is, are these people accurate? I'm thinking of Fableman's with the girlfriend who is constantly talking about the Holy Spirit, right? And a lot of Christians were
the flirt
offended.
to convert.
Yeah, flirt to convert, who were Christians who were offended by that, being like, how could he? But isn't the better question, like, is that a real kind of person?
Yeah, the better question is, how could she? I mean, didn't she do that?
Yeah.
Like, do we think he made her up? This is his autobiography. Right. Did he say, like, yeah, she's totally fictional?
Right.
Like, no, is that a California evangelical girl who really existed and really came out of a culture and did this thing?
Felt kind of guilty, and so tried to make it religious.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it seems pretty realistic.
I mean, it could be. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't think he's saying that's what all evangelical girls are like.
Yeah.
At all. But I think that is a thing that exists. So.
Okay. Here's another interesting one for you. Timothée Chalamet's character in Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I love.
Yeah. Do that one now. Because I think a lot of people watch that expecting him to be a particular way. And then it turned out there's something genuine about that.
The thing I love about that character is his clear youth group superficiality. Mm-hmm. Culturally, it feels like there's nothing there. And then he's one of those characters where then when the pressure comes out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It's like you squeeze this kid, you find out what's really there. He's ready. He's actually ready for this. He's authentic. He's real. But everything around him was this immaturity. And so I really do like that character a lot. I think he does a great job portraying that character. But it's like there's this weird immature superficiality to him as a human, where he's talking about fingerling potatoes or whatever. Like, I love those in the apocalypse. But then when push comes to shove and it's time to all die, it's time to all die and face their maker. He's ready. Yeah, and it's a great narrative.
Yeah, it reminds me of how you described your Christian characters. A flaw.
Yeah.
With something deep at the heart that's admirable and
and there's something deep there that's not of him. There's something real and that's what's beautiful about his character in that moment. That doesn't feel like, oh, we've peeled back enough stickers that we found the true and wonderful character. It's more like there's a real grace there.
He's a fraud. Yeah.
It's more like he has been given something real there, and so I think the affection for that character is easy. The same. So with Niffy, for me, I have a ton of affection for that character. He's a favorite character. but the burn it down impulse, his burn it down desire, the desire to have every single disagreement be an Alamo, is an immaturity.
Okay.
And I can still like him even because of that. Like, that's funny. It's funny to me that he's got that pain in the rear end when you're trying to work with him, but
He also will fight a dragon. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Right.
happily die for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I was trying to think of other regular perspectives of Christians or portrayals of Christians, and it does seem like Marvel does it pretty regularly with some of the superheroes. I'm thinking of Nightcrawler and Daredevil are both, I think, Catholic. But that just feels like superhero movies were playing with stereotypes, so they're trying to pick the most stereotyped religion that they can with the most.
Not just
outlets.
the thing about Catholicism that's so handy for visual narrative is that it has so many props.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not hard.
It's super easy to throw a collar on or a crucifix, or like you've got like easy decor in production design that signals what you need to signal. Where if somebody is just a really faithful Reformed Presbyterian, you can't see that on screen.
Sure, he doesn't even have a collar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you show it on screen? You need to go with a visual one.
It is funny that the two movies I've ever heard your dad recommend first, or not recommend, but say that he'd watched. Like, I don't ever hear your dad talk about movies, but he'd said, he mentioned, I think he watched The Passion because so many pastoral questions.
Because he needed to.
Because he needed to.
You're required to have an opinion.
Yep. And then second one was Sweetland, I think, which also, and those are the only two movies I've ever heard your dad refer to. But I know Sweetland has, I think, a pastor character in it as well. I've always been kind of wanted to get your dad in.
And he's a pretty terrible one.
Yeah, he's a bad one.
A real one.
Yeah.
And he does go on a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very Dutch Reformed-ish, I want to say.
Right.
I don't actually remember what he's from. I don't know what denomination, but
No,
he's a weather vane of the community, and kind of like an enforcement arm of the community. He's not a strong leader, but he does come around.
Yeah, which feels like the stereotyped Christian portrayal. There's that pastor becomes sort of the weather vane, like you said.
I think it's fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
if we were to take a survey of all the pastors in the U.S. and how they handled COVID and everything else, like, there's a lot of wussing out, and there's a lot of weather vaning.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, like,
Well, I mean,
burn it down, funny, weird, and there's a whole, mixture everywhere you go. So when we tell a story, we're allowed to tell a story with things that God tells stories with. And so if we try to take a character and say, this is what all Christian leaders are like, well, that's dangerous. But this is what this character's like. And this is the journey he has to go on. And this is this is his catharsis and his resolution. That's totally fair.
Yeah. Great. I don't think we have time. We don't need to get into the Christians who've told stories about good Christians. Well, it feels like there are tons. I mean, just lots of the classics.
Chariots of Fire.
Yeah. The biographies are Hacksaw Ridge I was reminded of.
Yep, I was going to say Hacksaw.
Yeah, there's just the real life ones are almost easier.
Unbroken, unfortunately, just missed it completely.
Yeah, dodged. Very cool aspect of his faith. Then, of course, we get the more gushy ones, Marilyn Robinson's, the Frederick Beaconers, the Leaf Angers. They're trying to do similar things.
NPR audiences. They're chasing those NPR audiences for sure.
Yeah.
They want to see their book lying askew on the passenger seat of a Subaru as they walk by it.
Yeah. It is interesting to me. I think I've said this, but Leaf Anger started out with some pretty solid, like the pastor dad in Peace Like a River.
I think that I could be totally off base. I like Leaf a lot. I've hung out with him exactly one time, and he's a great guy. So when I say this, I could be completely wrong. I think Peace Like a River resonated way too much with way too much of the extreme conservative side of the faith market.
Well, he said it in the West,
and so
there's bad guys and good guys.
And so I think that he's like that. He felt that gravity just kind of pulling him into a very old timey, fiery gospel.
Yeah. People get shot.
Yeah, but admiring the fundamentalist and,
Right, right.
people getting shot. And it's really, I think he went that direction. And I think he's been kind of charting against it ever since.
Well, he had to. It feels like a giant loss of his characters have lost their decisiveness.
I love
From
Peace
that
Like a
first
River
book.
a lot. And so I'm just going to emphasize that. Let's emphasize how much I love Peace Like a River.
Oh, so good.
If you haven't read it, read it immediately.
I mean, I even think So Brave, Young and Handsome is worth reading. You just got to skip the first 80 pages. No, sorry. We love Peace Like a River.
Peace Like a River is amazing.
Yeah, that's what we'll do with.
Is that it for 184?
I
We
think
done?
that's it. We're going to wrap it
Okay.
up. No need to get into, Shisaku Endo and all of those guys.
No. No need. Okay, that's been
Break.
184. I don't know. I think today we put some peanut butter and some chocolate, but there definitely isn't any really crystalline lessons or vitamins from today.
I mean, we would be
We
doing
talked.
it-
We blathered a little bit. So if you want to hang out with us and blather, we just did that. 184 in which we blathered, or in which I did. Brian was on point.
No.
Yeah, and we won double state track championships. That's what we should have been talking about.
Yeah, way to go. Boys and
girls, I'm extremely proud of a bunch of runners who achieved some Herculean feats.
Yeah,
over
too.
the
I'm
weekend.
watching records fall
Yep.
regularly all over the place. A couple quadruple champions for some of those individuals.
Yep. One of the girls I trained was 4 golds.
4 golds is a lot.
4 out of 4. You're allowed to
That's close
compete.
to
in-
Phelps / Ledecky level.
It's higher
Yeah.
because you're only allowed to compete in 4.
Oh,
So-
wow. So she's 100%.
So you're limited and you go 100%. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So anyway,
Yeah,
great.
way to
The
go.
girls won. The guys won. Couple state championships. Hurrah! So much gold, we look like preppers.
We'll put that clip at the beginning.
All right. See ya. Lay your life down. Your heartbeats cannot be hoarded. Your reservoir of breaths is draining away. You have hands, blister them while you can. You have bones, make them strain. They can carry nothing in the grave. You have lungs, let them spill with laughter. With an average life expectancy of 78.2 years in the U.S., subtracting 8 hours a day for sleep, I have around 250,000 conscious hours remaining to me in which I could be smiling or scowling, rejoicing in my life, in this race, in this story, or moaning and complaining about my troubles. I can be giving my fingers, my back, my mind, my words, my breaths to my wife and my children and my neighbors. Or I can grasp after the vapor and the vanity for myself, dragging my feet, afraid to die, and therefore afraid to live. And like Adam, I will still die in the